down with Ms. Heather. She's an upcoming professional actress, professional filmmaker, and screenwriter. We're going to hear from her when we come back from this commercial break.
Oh, my name is Heather Lee Cameron. I am an actor. I am a freelance journalist, and I am a creative freelancer from Lethbridge, Alberta. I am quite honored to be here today. I feel happy. I feel honored. I feel privileged to be doing this interview.
The whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having learning disabilities, I can still amount something. At the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there. You never give up and prove people wrong no matter what. And show them labels do not dictate who you are. You're going to be KeithAndrewNetWork. Shatter your expectations. It is my destiny. Prove people wrong in this world. Find ways, shatter your expectations. Don't let disabilities define you.
I'm your host, Keith Andrew, and welcome to the Keith Andrew Network. The following is brought to you by Keith Andrew Network. You're watching the talk show host with a learning disability. Our guest already introduced herself, so the first subject we're going to talk about is icebreakers. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, hi there, Keith Andrew. How are you? I'm hoping you're well. Anyway, my name is Heather Lee Cameron. I'm an actor, I'm a freelance journalist, and I'm a creative freelancer. And that creative freelancer involves screenwriting, video making, and whatever I can get my hands on in terms of creative work because I love to work. I'm neurodivergent and I've got endometriosis, so pretty much my work is my life, and it's a good life that I made for myself with what I've got available to me, and it brings me great joy.
Hey, as long as you have the heart and passion for it, you can do anything you want.
Well, I've always liked acting, always been engaged in it somehow, and the writing I've been doing since I was 6, and I've taught myself various ways of writing, and the video making I've been doing since about 2009, and just there were plans I had for my life that I don't know if I'll be able to accomplish. So, you know what? The creative things that I have in my life and that I can do and that I will still do, those are the gifts that I can give to the world.
Absolutely. So the next one I want to talk to you about is COVID. How has COVID impacted your life? And do you see life in a different point of view?
You know what? Funny enough, COVID actually got me introduced to films and series in terms of performing in them because a couple of my first roles in background acting actually was the Headley Projects, and it was in 2021. And I was a background actor during the time of COVID, and it was outside. It was like outside, so we were fine there. But another one was Angel Dust. And I had just come across that on Facebook. It was a casting call on Facebook. I had done headshots like near the end of 2020 when things were opening up. I had paid a whole bunch of money and just did this for fun because I was like, you know what? I'm an actor. I need to actually take myself seriously as an actor and do these headshots because I had done a bunch of theater and just some voice stuff. And I was like, let's ramp it up a little. Let's take myself seriously as an actor and see if I can actually do something with this because I finally got my health challenges under control, and I was like, let's just see what I can do with this. And so I sent my headshot out, and I got a response. I literally got a response saying, hey, can you play this role? Can you come to Medicine Hat at this time, at this day, and this address? So I went to Medicine Hat on a whim, and it was unpaid. And I had this little line, and it is now on Tubi and Amazon, like Amazon Prime.
No,
Like
that
it was just a girl sitting at a bar with the rest of the staff at the end of the night, just chillaxing, and it's not much, but it was something awesome. And it just sort of I'm doing my best to make it snowball more than it has. It's snowballed a little bit, but I want to do more because, It's one of my passions, and it's part of the life I am building for myself now that certain doors are closed to me. And I've had my grief about those certain doors, but so many more doors are open.
Absolutely. I feel the same way about my talk show because I fall under the spectrum of being, gonna be honest. Usually I dance around this, but people are like, "Oh, you shouldn't use the word," but screw it. I'm gonna use the word. I fall under the spectrum of being retarded because I can't read, I
Oh.
can't write, I could never go to college. I give you an example. If you did like multiple choice, and you could
Well,
like,
you know
oh,
what? You know what? Like, you're not a bad person just because you have
right.
these struggles. You're a beautiful person with struggles. You're a person with struggles. You got to humanize yourself.
No, you're absolutely right. But for me, anything I do, you have to break it down, you have to explain it to me. And because I learn at a slower pace, wink, wink,
Well,
people say I fall under spectrum.
yeah,
So I said,
I get
okay,
that.
well, I never got the chance to go to college. I don't have a BA, I don't have a BS. Even though people say I should have a bachelor's and BS because I like talking out of my ass. But I'm
Well,
gonna
honey, guess
show.
what?
What's that?
I was in what's the word for it? Special education
Same here.
courses in junior high and high school, but it's so possible to make something beautiful when you don't think you have any tools at all. And look at you, you're making this beautiful interview space and you've done so much with it because I actually had a look at what you've done. And it's amazing.
No, and that's the biggest thing. I mean, it's really cool. Every time I say this word, break the glass ceiling, there's a special effect on the screen. So every time I made a show, and I've been hosting the show. The show is the longest reigning streaming show on YouTube for someone who has disabilities for 12 and a half years, who has interviewed over 1,200 people, and I'm showing you that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. So prove them somehow to something. I never went to college, but look at what I was able to create for myself and to inspire people with and without disabilities to show you labels do not dictate who you're going to be.
Well, you know what? There's not enough of us neurodivergent people in entertainment because people are scared of us. They look at us and say, oh my God, look at these supposedly problematic people. But you know
Right.
what? We're just wired differently. We're not problematic. You just got to give us a chance and we'll show you that we're gifts to the world.
I agree.
Instead, they literally, I'm going to touch on something sensitive, but you know what? I said this in another interview, but who cares? Instead, they literally trot out these neurotypical actors to impersonate us, and it's insulting because we're perfectly capable of coming on screen and playing ourselves, and we're also capable of playing neurotypical characters, and yet we're hidden in the shadows while people put on costumes and pretend to be like us when they're not us.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, let me ask you while we're on the subject. I don't know if the guy was pretending or he really had cerebral palsy and Breaking Bad, RJ.
Oh,
That's an example of someone getting into their spotlight. But there's, to your point, there are other people who say, hey, they're a household name, or this person's really good looking, but he can't really act, or she's good looking, but we don't know she's a good fit. Hey, all you have to do is sit in a wheelchair. Or I have interviewed people who are in wheelchairs and said, my agent said I applied to be on NBC or CBS, and I couldn't sit in a chair, but yet they hire someone else who's nothing wrong with them, but they're playing a role personating someone with disabilities. And what are they doing? Sitting in a chair. So we
yeah.
need, even if the role is for people with disabilities, there's no reason why they can't. So going back to my friend, it's like all you have to say is, yeah, you're in a wheelchair, but for this scene, you're sitting on the couch, you're sitting at the table, you're sitting over here. No one needs to know that you're in a freaking wheelchair. But then going back to what you said, they will rather hire people to impersonate people with disabilities than actually work with people who have
I
disabilities.
mean, we exist, but they want to pretend that we don't, and yet they'll have normal people play those roles. I mean, we exist. We deserve to have our existence on the screen as much as neurotypical people do. We need our realities out there.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we
Uh-huh.
come back, we're going to talk about filmmaking.
One.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the KeithAndrewNetWork. The following is brought to you by the KeithAndrewNetWork. You're watching the talk show host with a learning disability. It's a Monday night, available on Peacock and Netflix. It's WWE Monday Night Raw. Tonight's main event will be a tag team triple threat match for the World Tag Team Championships. If you're a fan of professional wrestling, definitely check out Monday Night Raw, available on Peacock, Netflix, and YouTube. Next question I want to talk to you about is filmmaking. What's difficult about being a filmmaker? And same question, what's difficult about being a writer?
Well, okay, well, filmmaking, I basically do that in my home, and I have little portable green screens that I spent money on. And so, because, COVID has made it very hard to be in anything and want people to have you actually travel to be in anything, at least for that's the experience I've had. And so I use the green screen to film things and backgrounds put in, and I've actually been in a couple of series that way and played some very vibrant characters. And I've also filmed a lot of just videos of me talking about different things and showing passions, and I've also just really wanted to keep up my energy and build more energy and just show that I'm a really diverse actor and person. And hopefully somebody sees that and says, hey, this girl deserves a shot on something, because I would love to put myself on more television and movies, because really it's an art, it's a science, and I feel like I have something to give to that art and science. And then in terms of writing, I've been doing that since I was about 6 years old. I had my first thing published when I was six, and then writing, I found it challenging, like just trying to get a job in the field and trying to do school, because school was difficult. I wasn't the person with the straight A's. I wasn't the person who everybody looked at as a positive presence in the class, because I wasn't properly diagnosed until about 2009, 2010, because the system sucked and I was just seen as a crazy person. But yet I could write beautiful things. And so I was teachable in that way, but I could hardly ever have any sort of conversation on the phone or a social conversation. I had to teach myself to talk. I don't remember who taught me this exercise, but I had to time myself talking for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and really build myself up to be able to have conversations. Because journalists, like, I guess they got to have lots of conversations with lots of different people and try to not look like an idiot. But I gained those skills and I graduated. And then it came time to find like practicum, I guess, before graduation. And I sent like 50 letters out to different places. And I still remember setting those letters out and never hearing anything back. I mean, I mentioned the disability, which I've learned later you probably shouldn't do all the time, but I wanted to be real. I wanted to be honest, because I still thought of myself as this burden that I needed to really be real about so people could understand what they were getting into when they were working with me. And so I eventually heard something, and I've been freelancing since I was 17 years old, and I'm now 37. I don't look it, just by the way. Um, and also remember walking the streets with my portfolio, hoping to get a job in writing because I loved it. But like we'd get to the interview and I would fall flat on my face because I wouldn't know how to have that type of a conversation without stumbling over my tongue and struggling to look people in the eye.
No,
And
I
then
agree with you. Not to interrupt, I do apologize.
that's
But,
fine.
I agree. Sorry, when I don't do my interviews as a way, my disability shows more hint of the show. Talk show host with a disability. But I taught myself how to do my talk show, how to interview, how to talk to people. My sister likes to beat me over the head. It's like, you can't, you don't know how to have a conversation with someone. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I will use my talk show as therapy for myself, and I will teach myself how to have a conversation with people. Sometimes it works,
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't, but you have to teach yourself, even if it's at a slow pace.
Well, and then I'd get to the interview to the point where I'd get to the point where I could actually have the conversation, but then I'd struggle and people would catch on, oh, what's wrong? I have this disability. And they'd think like, oh God, this person's going to be so problematic. And they'd send me on my way. And I'd have to just do things and do it over and over and over and over and over again. And freelancing came, but freelancing doesn't pay that much. Let's be realistic. It doesn't pay that much. And you really have to love what you do in order to invest your time in it because you learn a lot of skills. You work with a bunch of great people, but it doesn't pay that much. And I wish things would change about that. But I do love the job because you learn a lot. You work with a lot of great people and you can have your name in a lot of places. The same goes with acting. You have to build yourself up and you don't always get lucky. Not everybody gets to be like the kings of acting like Noah Weil or Sean Hatosi or those wonderful people that make the shows like The Pits or Chicago PD or things like that. But, it's all about the effort. If you put effort in it and you learn and you're willing to learn, you can at least have some fun with it, right?
I agree. Now, let me ask you this a two-part question. How do you feel? Well, let me ask you this another way, because this is part of my old interview. Someone asked me, but I want to ask you this. With everything going on and how Trump wants to demolish public education, he wants to get rid of it and defund it, and to the point where it's defunct. As someone like myself who has disabilities, how does that make you feel knowing that he wants to destroy public education? And how have you shattered your glass ceiling? Because you are an inspiration for people with disabilities. Have you, has anyone ever walked up to you and said, thank you for being an inspiration?
Well, in terms of the Trump thing, this is why we have each other. Even if we don't have the formal classroom, we have each other. We can talk to each other. We can stop being afraid to talk to each other and teach each other to love each other a little more and have compassion and give each other grace and just sit down with each other and be unafraid of sitting down with each other and having the conversations that need to be had. We can look beyond our differences and teach each other, hey, we're not monsters. We're all people going through struggles.
I mean, some people are monsters, but
Well, we're not monsters because of our disabilities. We're not monsters because of the color of our skin or our culture or the fact that we might be gay or transgender or whatever. We're not monsters. We're all people.
that's true. You want to look at monsters, look at January 6th, look at September 11th, look at I'm drawing a blank on any other.
Like even so, like even in terms of different religious beliefs, they don't make us monsters. Our choices are what make us monsters. And that's the saddest thing. Some people make very bad choices to hurt others, and I feel sorry for them because even when life is hard, we can make good choices and be good people.
That's true. The next one I want to talk to you about is social
You
media.
you mentioned a part of the question that I didn't answer yet, the glass ceiling.
Yes, I'm sorry. What can you tell us about breaking the glass ceiling?
It is freaking hard. I don't think I'm all the way there yet, like because I lived in an abusive situation with an abusive father who was an alcoholic who stopped loving me at the age of 3 because of my disability. When I was diagnosed, the doctor was like, this girl has a disability. You should put her in a group home. And my mom was like, hell no. And that love from my mother and her friends, because she had a lot of friends, she was very popular. That love has buoyed me and encouraged me. And yeah, I'm gonna cry. God bless mom. But there's so much more to do. Like even when I have broken bits of the ceiling, there's so much more to do because it's like a mountain of glass ceilings. You break a little bit And then you look at the world and realize there's just so many more glass ceilings to break, and there's so much more I want to do. There's so much more of the world I want to help and see and educate if people are just willing to let me into opportunities, let me into spaces, and I want to love all of them and teach them. I'm not a monster, and hey, I'm here. Let me in to your hearts and to your lives.
No, I agree with you 100%. So the next subject we're going to talk about is social media. Was there, besides Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, give us a quick rundown of your routine. Is there any websites you say really helped me get on TV, get noticed, really put me in that under the
Well,
microscope? Because there's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. Was there any websites you would recommend that helped you?
well, I just, I put myself on Facebook and Twitter and Blue Sky and Instagram and YouTube. I put myself on YouTube a whole bunch, and the writing was always put on Facebook, and I did stuff for various websites. And the casting calls are what I found on Facebook and social medias, and I just applied to a whole bunch of things. Like actually one of my most adventurous roles actually came as a result of something I found through, I think it was email or social media. I don't know if you watch Survivor, Eric Reichenbach. He ran this little mini series during lockdown called High School Vampire Chronicles. And I auditioned by recording something on my phone and I sent it in. And I ended up getting cast as the female lead and opposite him. And we did 5 episodes just because he got busy, and but they're still on YouTube today. And I guess later in this series, Carolyn and Jatia, also from Survivor, were a part of it, and a bunch of other wonderful people were also a part of it. So social media is a great way to put yourself out there, but it's also a way to find opportunity, and that's what I've been doing. And there's also Actors Access where you can list all the things you've done online in terms of production, in terms of acting, in terms of just everything you've done, because I've also modeled for mental health. I've done voice acting, I've done camera acting, I've also taken classes. Like even on IMDb, you can mention journalism or whatever else you've done, and you really shouldn't be afraid to take advantage of whatever social media you can. Because I mean, I know it's a scary place, but you can just ignore the trolls, because the trolls, they live in ignorance and that's their choice, but we don't have to be controlled by the hateful attitudes of others. We may not be able to control what other people think of us or say about us, but we can control how we respond to that. And we can respond to that by giving ourselves grace and giving ourselves to be the freedom to be ourselves?
It's true. You can't fix stupid, but you can numb it with a 2x4.
Yeah.
So the next one I want to ask you, as
Like
a,
I want to, sorry, I just want to make a little comparison to The Pit. I don't know if you've seen it, like, or
I
ER,
heard of
like
it.
Like The Pit or ER, two great shows of television. Like even in the chaos of the day in both those shows, those characters have never been afraid. They were never afraid in ER, and they've never been afraid in The Pit. They were never afraid to really find time to be themselves, even in the world of chaos.
Well, let me ask you, as a writer, how do you build characters and what are some of your values?
Well, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I don't believe in polygamy. Let's get that off the table, first of all. I don't like that. But honesty, I'm honest with myself, and I literally have I have crushed computers over making characters and stories, but I've got about 5 or 6 novels in progress that I'm working on slowly. I've got a pile of scripts that are not yet finished, but I would love to hold table reads for. Um, and in terms of characters, I liken them unto myself a little bit, and I liken siblings of characters unto personality traits I find in myself and others, because I like to write my characters with siblings, some of them, because I think that A lot of people need like siblings or surrogate siblings. I have one and he's great. I have a half one. I haven't seen him in a while, but just you can find a lot of relief in writing characters, and you can find a lot of brain power in world building and story building. And although you can also lose a lot of sleep because once you start world building and character building, it's kind of hard to stop. And then you look at the clock and realize it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you need to go to bed. And then you're like, no, I want to keep writing. And then you just realize you've written like 20 pages of character notes for what you want your characters to do and be, and then some of your inspiration actually can come from fanfic writing, and what you write in fan fiction, which I also do as well, can bleed into your personal novel writing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we're going to take a quick time out, and when we come back, we're going to wrap up the show. When we come back, 3, 2, 1, we're back from this quick commercial break. So we're going to talk about AI. As a writer, actor in the entertainment world, do you feel that AI will replace you, or do you think there will always be that human touch in the entertainment world?
You know what? I'm going to quote Tim Taylor from Home Improvement because he's freaking amazing. When they made me, they broke the mold. I can't be replaced. I mean, people can certainly try, but I can't be replaced. Like, I was created a unique way, and my talents that were given to me when I was created, they are created in a unique way, and I am choosing to apply my talents in a unique way. I am choosing to be an actor and seek out acting opportunities and hoping to elevate those opportunities into more shows and more films in a unique way. I am trying my best. I have sought out agent representation, casting, directory representation. I have really tried to get into casting databases. I have tried to reach out to agents, but not everybody's open-minded yet, and that's not their fault. They're just not there. But I keep trying to do my best to elevate that career in a unique way because there's not a lot of understanding, but it will get there. And I'm trying to give people grace in terms of writing. I am doing my best to elevate my career in a unique way because full-time work, it's not available yet. It hasn't been offered to me yet, like in terms of what I'm able to handle at this time. Like it was, but the opportunity didn't feel right for me. And you got to do something that can accommodate you, it's got to be right in the way you can handle it. If you do something that you can't handle, like don't do it. Don't do something that you can't handle emotionally, physically, mentally, whatever, because
That's true. My last subject I want to ask you, when I first approached you to be a guest on my talk show, what was your first reaction and what made you say yes?
You know what? I was actually rather flattered to be asked to be a guest on your show because I've been trying to just magnify I've been trying to magnify my presence on social media, on the internet in general, and in media in general, just trying to teach people about living with a disability, being an actor with a disability, being a writer with a disability, being a journalist with a disability, and teaching people that it's okay to welcome me into your space as an actor, as a writer, as a journalist, as a creative freelancer. I'm not scary. I'm a hard worker. I can do a lot for you. And I've got a lot of skill set that will be beneficial to whatever you're producing. And you just have to give me the chance to prove it to you. And I am very teachable.
Absolutely.
And I'm
Yes.
very grateful that you allowed me to come into your space, in your personal home, and share all this information with you. And I hope to goodness that it leads people to want to have me in their spaces too, because I'm certainly eager to come into their spaces and do what I can to help change the world, help feed the world education and help change it and magnify it so that their eyes are open, that they might be more welcoming to people like me and people who are unique.
Absolutely. Now I do have a couple questions for you off the air. This will be shared on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Our goal is to reach 500 views. If you're watching, you're obligated to leave a comment, like, share. I would love to interact with you. Our host would like to interact with you. But wrapping up, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest. I just want to say thank you very much. And until we meet again, I catch you later. Thank you and have a good night.